The station's alarm screamed through the empty corridors. Dr. Kang Minho looked up from his microscope, his tired eyes focusing on the security monitor. Something massive was approaching. Something that made his blood run cold. The ship that docked looked like it had been carved from black stone and bone. Minho had never seen anything like it. He watched his screen as the airlock opened, and his breath caught in his throat. She was enormous. 8 limbs moved with liquid grace across his station floor. Her body was covered in midnight blue scales that seemed to absorb light. 4 eyes, burning like golden stars, fixed on the camera. Velmara, a Threxian, an apex predator from a world where nothing else survived at the top of the food chain. Minho's hand shook as he reached for the communication panel. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to call for help. Threxians were legends in the galaxy, perfect killers. Nothing escaped them. Nothing survived them. Dr. Kang Minho, her voice rumbled through the speakers, surprisingly soft. I come in peace. I need your help. Those words, coming from a creature that could tear through steel, seemed impossible. Minho forced himself to breathe. He had spent 10 years studying predator species. He had faced dangerous creatures before, but never anything like this. He met her in the main laboratory. Up close, she was even more terrifying. Each of her 8 limbs ended in claws that could slice through ship armor. Her jaw could unhinge to reveal rows of crystalline teeth. But her eyes held something he did not expect: desperation. You are wondering why I am here, Velmara said, lowering her massive body to seem less threatening. It did not work. The thought crossed my mind, Minho replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Behind her, 3 smaller shapes emerged. Cubs. They were still larger than Minho, but young. Their scales had not fully hardened yet. They moved with curiosity, sniffing the air, studying everything with bright, intelligent eyes. These are my children, Velmara said. Kresh, Valna, and Tor. The twins, Kresh and Valna, circled Minho like sharks. Kresh was broader, his scales already showing the deep blue of maturity. Valna moved with calculated precision, her eyes analyzing everything. Little Tor hung back, watching silently. They are beautiful, Minho said, meaning it. There was something magnificent about them. They are doomed, Velmara replied. Minho blinked. What do you mean? Velmara settled onto the floor, her cubs gathering close. My species is dying, Dr. Kang. Not from war, not from disease, from irrelevance. She explained, and Minho listened in growing understanding. The Threxians were perfect hunters. Evolution had crafted them into living weapons. They could track prey across light years. They could survive in any environment. They could kill anything. But the galaxy had changed. Trade, diplomacy, cooperation. These were the new survival skills. The Threxians had none of them. They were feared, isolated, banned from dozens of worlds. Their population was dropping. In another century, they would be extinct. We tried to adapt, Velmara said quietly, but we do not know how. We only know how to hunt, how to fight, how to survive alone. Our cubs grow up the same way. Perfect killers in a galaxy that no longer needs killing. Why me? Minho asked. Because you are human, Velmara said simply. I have studied your species for years. You were predators once, apex hunters on your world, but you changed. You learned to build, to create, to cooperate. You hunt knowledge now instead of prey. You turned your predator instincts into something new. Minho had never thought of it that way. I asked other species, Velmara continued. The peaceful ones, the diplomatic ones, all refused. They are too afraid of what Threxian hunters might become with training. But you understand us. You were like us once. She moved closer, and Minho fought the urge to step back. Train my cubs, she said. Teach them the human way. Show them how to become more than hunters. You have one galactic cycle. 18 of your months. Minho looked at the three cubs. Kresh was testing his claws against the laboratory table, leaving deep scratches. Valna was studying the room's layout, identifying exits and weak points. Tor was watching Minho with unusual intensity. "What if I fail?" Minho asked. "Then my species ends with dignity," Velmara replied. "But if you succeed, we have a future." Minho thought about it. The risk was enormous. These were predators. Dangerous, unpredictable, powerful. If something went wrong, he would not survive. The station was remote. Help was weeks away. But the opportunity was incredible. To help an entire species evolve. To bridge the gap between humanity and one of the galaxy's most feared races. "I have one condition," Minho said finally. "You cannot stay. You cannot watch. You cannot interfere. You must trust me completely, even if my methods seem strange or wrong." Velmara's eyes widened. "You ask me to leave my cubs?" "I ask you to trust me with them," Minho corrected. "If you hover, if you question, if you try to guide them, this will not work. You came to me because humans know how to change. Let me do this my way." The silence stretched. The cubs looked confused, almost hurt. They did not understand why their mother would leave them with a stranger. Finally, Velmara bowed her head. "I agree." She turned to her cubs. She spoke to them in their own language, a series of clicks and rumbles that Minho's translator could not fully capture. The cubs responded with distressed sounds. Tor actually whimpered. "I will return in 18 months, Velmara said to Minho. "Make them worthy of the galaxy we now live in." She left without looking back. The door sealed behind her. Her ship detached and vanished into the stars. Minho stood alone with three apex predators. Three confused, angry, abandoned cubs who were now looking at him with eyes that held fear, resentment, and something dangerous. Kresh growled, a sound that vibrated through the floor. Valna's claws extended slowly. Tor simply stared. Minho took a deep breath. 18 months. He had 18 months to transform killers into something the galaxy had never seen. "Well," he said calmly, "let us start with breakfast." The first week was a nightmare. Kresh destroyed 3 doors, 2 tables, and 1 entire storage room. His strength was terrifying. When he got frustrated, he simply tore through whatever was in his way. Reinforced steel crumpled like paper under his claws. Valna was worse in a different way. She did not break things. She studied them. Minho found traps throughout the station. Simple ones at first, then increasingly clever. She was testing him, learning his patterns, mapping his routines. It was what a predator did before striking. Tor was the strangest. The smallest cub would disappear for hours. Not hide, disappear. Minho discovered that Tor had camouflage abilities that made them nearly invisible. Sometimes Minho would turn around and jump, finding Tor standing right behind him, watching with those curious golden eyes. None of them spoke to him. They communicated with each other in their clicking language, but treated Minho like he was barely there, or like he was prey they had not decided to eat yet. Minho did not try to teach them anything that first week. He just observed. He cooked his meals in the small kitchen while they watched. He worked on his research while they prowled. He slept in a locked room while they tested the door every night. On the 8th day, he started. "Come with me," he said after breakfast. They did not move. "You can stay here if you want," Minho continued calmly. "But I am going to the garden. There is something interesting there." He walked away. After a moment, he heard the soft click of claws on metal. They were following, curious despite themselves. The hydroponics bay was Minho's favorite place on the station. Green plants grew under artificial lights. The air smelled like earth and life. He had built this place himself over the years, a small piece of earth in the emptiness of space. The cubs entered cautiously. Kresh sniffed the air and sneezed. Valna touched a leaf carefully, then pulled back when it moved. Tor stared at everything with wide eyes. Minho picked up 3 small pots. He filled them with soil. Then he gave one to each cub. "What is this?" Valna asked, her first words to him. "Dirt," Minho replied. "Why?" "Because you are going to grow something." He showed them the seeds. Tiny things, barely visible. He demonstrated how to plant them, how to water them, how to place them in the light. Kresh looked at his pot like it was a joke. "This is useless." "Try it anyway," Minho said. "No." Kresh crushed the pot in his hand. Soil and seeds scattered across the floor. "We are hunters. We do not play in dirt." Minho just nodded. "Okay." He gave Kresh another pot. "Try again tomorrow." Every day. Kresh destroyed the pot. Every day Minho gave him a new one. Valna did not destroy hers, but she did not plant anything either. She studied the seeds, the soil, the pot. She was trying to understand the purpose, the strategy. When she could not find one, she lost interest. Only Tor actually planted the seed. The small cub followed Minho's instructions carefully, placing the seed in the soil, adding water, setting it in the light. Then Tor sat and stared at it, as if expecting something to happen immediately. "It takes time," Minho explained. "Days, maybe weeks." "Why wait?" Tor asked softly. "Why not just take food that is already grown?" "Because," Minho said, "humans learned that making something yourself feels different than taking something someone else made. We turn survival into art. We turn necessity into joy." Tor did not understand, but kept watching the pot anyway. Weeks passed. Minho established a routine. Mornings, he took them outside the station on tethered spacewalks. He showed them the stars, taught them constellations, explained how humans navigated using nothing but light and mathematics. Afternoons, he tried to teach them language. Basic Galactic Common first. They learned fast, their minds sharp. But they did not see the point. "Why learn other languages?" Valna asked. "Everyone learns Threxian when they meet us. Fear is a universal translator." "Is it?" Minho replied. "How many friends does fear make?" She had no answer for that. Evenings were for meals. Minho cooked always. He did not just heat food, he prepared it. He used spices, sauces, techniques. He made the food beautiful. "Why does it matter how it looks?" Kresh asked one night, watching Minho arrange vegetables in a pattern. "Because humans believe that if you are going to do something, even something simple like eating, you should do it well," Minho explained. "We hunt excellence in everything." "That is inefficient," Valna observed. "Maybe," Minho agreed, "but it makes life worth living." The breakthrough came on day 43. Minho was working in his lab when he heard a sound he had never heard before. Kresh, making a noise that was almost like surprise. He found the large cub in the garden, staring at a pot. The pot Kresh had not destroyed yesterday, or the day before, or the day before that. A tiny green shoot had emerged from the soil. "It grew," Kresh said quietly. "Yes," Minho replied. "I did not break this one. I forgot about it." "And it grew." Kresh touched the small plant with one claw, impossibly gentle. His massive hand, which could tear through steel, barely disturbed the fragile leaves. "I made this," Kresh whispered. Minho saw it then, the shift, the moment when destruction became creation in Kresh's mind, when the young Threxian realized that his strength could build instead of break. That night, Kresh planted 5 more seeds. Valna noticed the change in her brother. She watched him tend his plants with the same focus he once used for fighting. She began asking Minho questions, real questions, not challenges. "Why do humans cooperate?" she asked one evening. "You are apex predators. You could have stayed solitary. Because together we could hunt bigger prey, Minho explained. Alone, a human could maybe kill a deer. Together, we could kill a mammoth. Cooperation made us stronger. But now you do not hunt at all. We hunt different things. Knowledge, beauty, meaning, understanding. These are harder to catch than any animal. Valna thought about this for a long time. Tor's plant grew fastest. The small cub checked on it constantly, watering it, turning it toward the light. When the first flower bloomed, Tor stared at it for an entire day. "It is beautiful," Tor said. "Yes," Minho agreed. "I want to make more beautiful things." Minho smiled. "Then I will teach you." 3 months in, a supply ship arrived. Captain Park Ji-woo was surprised to see the cubs. "I heard rumors," she said, staring at Kresh, who was now nearly twice her size. "Did not believe them." "They are learning," Minho said. Ji-woo had brought supplies and messages from Earth, including a video from her daughter, Hana. The 8-year-old girl talked about her school, her friends, her drawings. The cubs watched the video 3 times. "Human children learn together?" Valna asked. "Yes," Minho said. "They play together? Help each other?" "Yes." "We were always alone," Valna said quietly. "Each cub fights for food, for space, for our mother's attention. The strong survive, the weak die." "That is one way," Minho acknowledged. "But humans learned another way. We learned that sometimes everyone surviving makes everyone stronger." That night, Minho found Kresh and Valna teaching Tor how to plant seeds properly, working together, helping each other. He went to sleep smiling. Month 4 began with structure. Minho had been patient, letting the cubs adjust. Now it was time to truly teach. Mornings were for physical training, but not the kind the cubs expected. No fighting, no hunting practice. Instead, Minho taught them movement with purpose. He showed them parkour, how to flow through space efficiently, how to climb without destroying, how to move fast without being reckless. Kresh loved it. His powerful body could launch him across the station corridors. He learned to control his strength, to use exactly the right amount of force. "This is like hunting," Kresh said one morning, leaping between platforms. "It is," Minho agreed. "But you are hunting the perfect movement, not prey." Afternoons were for learning. Real learning. Minho set up a classroom in his lab. 3 desks, 3 tablets, 3 students who had never sat still for lessons in their lives. He started with mathematics. The cubs understood numbers. But Minho showed them patterns, equations, the language of the universe. Valna took to it immediately. She saw mathematics as a different kind of strategy, a way to predict and understand. "If you know the equation," she said excitedly, "you know what happens next." "Sometimes," Minho said. "But the universe likes to surprise us." Languages came next. Galactic Common, then Human Korean, then English. The cubs learned fast. Their minds were sharp, built for tracking and understanding complex patterns. But the hardest lessons were about emotions. "Why do humans cry?" Tor asked one day, watching a human movie Minho had shown them. "Because we feel pain," Minho explained. "Not just physical pain, emotional pain, loss, sadness, loneliness." "Threxians do not cry," Valna said. "Do you not feel sad?" Minho asked. Silence. The cubs looked at each other. "We feel empty sometimes," Kresh admitted quietly. "When mother leaves on long hunts, when we are alone." "That is sadness," Minho said gently. "Humans just show it differently." He showed them art, paintings, sculptures, music. The cubs were confused at first. What was the purpose? What did it accomplish? "It makes us feel things," Minho explained. "It connects us to each other. It shows us we are not alone in our emotions." Tor understood first. The small cub asked for painting supplies. Minho gave them brushes, colors, canvas. Tor painted for hours, creating swirling patterns that looked like the stars outside. "It looks like home," Tor said softly. "Our world." Before we left. Kresh looked at the painting. Then, without speaking, he began to paint too. His painting was different. Bold and strong, it showed mountains, vast and unclimbing. Valna watched her siblings. Then she picked up a brush. Evening lessons were the most important. Minho taught them how to talk to others, how to listen, how to understand feelings, how to resolve conflicts without violence. "When someone makes you angry, what do you do?" Minho asked. "Kill them," Kresh said automatically. "Among Threxians, maybe," Minho said. "But in the galaxy, you need other options. Words, compromise, understanding." He made them practice. They did role-playing exercises, pretended to negotiate, learned to argue with words instead of claws. It was frustrating for them. Violence was simple, direct. This was complicated. "Why is everything so hard?" Valna complained one evening. "Why can humans not just be simple?" "We were simple once," Minho said. "We killed what we feared. We took what we wanted. But we learned that simple does not mean better. Complexity, difficulty, challenge. These things made us stronger." He showed them human history, not the glorious parts, the dark parts. Wars, genocides, slavery, destruction. The cubs were shocked. "Humans did this?" Tor asked, staring at images of ancient battlefields. "Yes," Minho said, not hiding it. "We were monsters sometimes. We hurt each other. We destroyed our own world." "But you changed," Valna said slowly. "We learned," Minho corrected. "We made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But we learned from them. We grew. That is what makes humans special. Not that we are perfect, but that we keep trying to be better." That lesson stuck with them. Month 7 brought a visitor that changed everything. Kim Sora arrived on an inspection shuttle. She was a human ethics officer sent to evaluate Minho's work. She was not happy. "This is wrong," she said, watching the cubs practice writing in Korean. "You are destroying their nature, making them into something they are not." "I am showing them options," Minho replied calmly. "They are apex predators. You are domesticating them. What happens when they return to their people and cannot hunt anymore? Cannot defend themselves?" The cubs overheard. That night, Minho found them in the garden, sitting among their plants, talking quietly. "Is she right?" Kresh asked when he noticed Minho. "Are we betraying our species?" "Are you?" Minho asked back. "I do not know," Kresh admitted. "I still have my strength, my claws, my hunting instincts. But I think about building now, creating." "Is that wrong? Can you still hunt if you need to?" Minho asked. "Yes," all 3 cubs said together. "Then you have not lost anything," Minho said. "You have only gained. You can hunt, and you can build. You can fight, and you can create. You are not less Threxian. You are more." "More?" Valna questioned. "Your ancestors hunted to survive," Minho explained. "You hunt to build a future. They killed to eat. You learn to understand. They were perfect for their time. You are becoming perfect for this time." Tor spoke up, surprising everyone. "Humans hunted mammoths. Now they hunt meaning." Minho smiled. "Exactly." Sora stayed for a week, watching everything. She saw Kresh carefully assembling a complex machine, his massive claws working with impossible precision. She saw Valna mediating an argument between her siblings, using words and patience. She saw Tor painting a mural on the station wall, something beautiful and haunting. On her last day, Sora approached Minho. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "You are not destroying them. You are completing them." "They are completing themselves," Minho corrected. I am just showing them the path. Month 9 brought new challenges. The cubs were advanced now, speaking multiple languages, understanding complex ideas, but they still struggled with empathy. Minho decided to try something different. He showed them human entertainment, stories, movies, books. Tor devoured them. The small cub read everything, watching human stories about love, loss, triumph, failure. One day, Minho found Tor crying. "What is wrong?" Minho asked, concerned. "The character died," Tor said, tears streaming down their scaled face. "She was brave and good, and she died." It was the first time Minho saw a Threxian cry. "You understand now," Minho said gently. "You understand what it means to care about someone, to feel their pain as your own." Kresh started reading too. He became obsessed with human architecture, studying buildings from Earth. He filled notebooks with designs, structures that blended Threxian strength with human beauty. Valna found philosophy. She read human thinkers, argued with their ideas, developed her own thoughts. She started asking questions that had no easy answers. "What is the purpose of existence?" she asked one night. "I do not know," Minho admitted. "You do not know?" Valna was surprised. "But you are the teacher." "Teachers do not have all answers," Minho said. "We just know how to look for them. That is what I am teaching you. Not what to think, but how to think." By month 12, the cubs were unrecognizable from the hostile, confused creatures that had arrived. They moved with grace and purpose. They spoke with intelligence and emotion. They created beauty and solved problems. But they were still Threxian, still dangerous when they needed to be, still strong and fast and deadly. They had not lost their nature. They had expanded it. 6 months left, Kresh said one evening, looking at the calendar. "Are you ready to go home?" Minho asked. The 3 cubs looked at each other. "No," Valna said honestly, "but we will be." Month 12 marked the beginning of the end. The cubs had learned the basics. Now Minho needed to prove they could use what they learned in the real world. He started with leadership. Kresh was the natural choice, the strongest and most confident. But Minho wanted to see if strength could guide instead of dominate. "The station has efficiency problems," Minho told Kresh one morning. "Power consumption is 30% higher than it should be. Fix it." Kresh looked overwhelmed. "I am not an engineer." "You understand machines now," Minho said. "You understand mathematics and physics. You have everything you need. You just need to lead." Kresh spent 3 days analyzing the station systems. He found the problems, dozens of small inefficiencies. But he could not fix them all alone, so he did something that would have been impossible a year ago. He asked for help. He taught Valna the power systems. He had Tor map the station layout. He contacted Captain Jiwoo for advice on similar problems she had solved. Together, they reduced power consumption by 40%. "You did it," Minho said, proud. "We did it," Kresh corrected. "I learned something. Strength is not just physical. Sometimes strength is knowing when to ask for help." Next was Valna's test. Diplomacy. A trading ship had contacted the station, wanting to stop for supplies. The captain was a Quilnar, a prey species that feared predators instinctively. "Negotiate with him," Minho told Valna. "We need food supplies. He has them. Make a deal." "He will be terrified of me," Valna said. "Probably," Minho agreed. "So show him there is nothing to fear." The negotiation happened over video call. The Quilnar captain's eyes went wide when he saw Valna's Threxian features. I cannot," he stammered. "Captain Rennick," Valna said calmly, using the voice techniques Minho taught her. Soft, non-threatening. "I understand this is unusual, but we simply need food supplies. We have credits to pay. This is just business." "You are Threxian," Rennick said, his voice shaking. "I am," Valna agreed. But I am also a student. I am learning about the galaxy, about trade, cooperation, mutual benefit. Help me learn. Help me understand how business works between different species." She reframed the conversation, made herself the student, him the teacher. It changed the dynamic. Renick relaxed slightly. What do you need?" They negotiated for an hour. Valna was brilliant. She understood his fears and addressed them. She offered fair prices. She found compromise when they disagreed. By the end, Renick was actually smiling. "You are not like other Threxians I have heard about," he said. "I am exactly like other Threxians," Valna replied, "but I am also learning to be more." When the call ended, Minho saw tears in Valna's eyes. "That was the hardest thing I have ever done," she said. "Harder than any hunt." "I know," Minho said, "but you did it perfectly." Tor's test was different. Cultural exchange. "Create something," Minho said. "Something that shows both where you came from and where you are going. Something that bridges Threxian and human culture." Tor thought for days, then began to work. The small cub transformed the station's main corridor. Paintings covered the walls, sculptures stood in corners. But these were not just human art or Threxian art. They were both. One sculpture showed a Threxian hunter, but the hunter was planting seeds. A painting depicted Earth and the Threxian homeworld connected by a bridge of stars. A mural showed cubs and human children playing together. Minho invited everyone he could contact: scientists, traders, travelers. 20 people from 6 different species came to see Tor's exhibition. They walked through in silence. Some looked afraid at first, seeing Threxian imagery, but then they saw the humanity in it, the hope, the connection. An old human artist stood in front of the largest painting for 15 minutes. "This," she said finally, tears running down her face, "this is what art is supposed to do: break down walls, build understanding." Tor glowed with pride, but the real test came unexpectedly. Month 15, a systems failure, critical and sudden, life support failing, oxygen dropping, temperature rising, emergency alerts screaming through the station. Minho and the cubs had 40 minutes before the station became uninhabitable. "What do we do?" Kresh asked. Minho's mind raced. The backup systems were offline. The main computer was not responding. They needed to manually reboot everything, but the controls were in different parts of the station. "We split up," Minho decided. "Kresh, you take engineering. Use your strength to manually operate the backup systems. Valna, you coordinate from the command center. Guide us through the process. Tor, you help evacuate the visitors to the safe pods." The visitors. Minho had forgotten. 20 people, now panicking. The cubs did not hesitate. Kresh ran to engineering. The backup system required a massive physical lever to be pulled. It was designed for emergency crews of 10 people. Kresh did it alone, his tremendous strength finally used for exactly the right purpose. Valna reached the command center. Systems were failing everywhere. She analyzed the situation with perfect calm, the same calm she once used for hunting. She calculated priorities, directed Kresh's efforts, found solutions Minho had not seen. Tor reached the visitors. They were terrified, screaming, pushing toward the exits. "Please," Tor said, voice cutting through the panic. "I know you are scared. I know I look frightening, but I promise I will get everyone to safety." The old artist recognized Tor. "I trust you," she said. That was enough. Others followed. Tor led them through corridors using camouflage to scout ahead, checking for hazards. When a door was blocked, Tor found another route. When someone fell, Tor helped them up. 28 minutes later, life support came back online. Oxygen levels stabilized. Temperature dropped. Crisis over. Everyone survived. The visitors gathered in the safe area, staring at the 3 cubs who had saved them. These were Threxians, apex predators, monsters from stories. But they had protected, not attacked, saved, not killed. Captain Rennick, who had come for the exhibition, spoke first. "Thank you," he said to Valna. "You saved my life." Others echoed him. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." The cubs looked uncomfortable with the praise. Later, Minho found them in the garden, sitting among their plants. "That was a test, was it not?" Valna asked. Minho smiled. "Yes, arranged by me and Kim Sora. We needed to see how you would react under pressure." "You could have told us," Kresh said. "Then it would not have been a real test," Minho replied. "But you passed. Perfectly. Your first instinct was not to flee or attack. It was to protect." "We are still Threxian," Tor said quietly. "Yes," Minho agreed. "But you are also more. You are the future of your species." Word spread across the galaxy. 3 Threxian cubs who saved 20 lives, who created art, who negotiated peace, who built instead of destroyed. Messages flooded the station, requests for interviews, offers of scholarships, invitations to visit other worlds. The cubs read them all with wonder. "The galaxy is noticing," Valna said. "They are noticing you," Minho corrected. "And they like what they see." 3 months remained. 3 months until Velmara returned. "What if she does not approve?" Kresh asked one night. "Then we deal with that when it happens," Minho said. "But I think she will be proud." Deep down, though, Minho was not sure. He had transformed her cubs completely. Would she see it as success or betrayal? Time would tell. The final 3 months passed faster than all the others combined. The cubs prepared for their mother's return with a mixture of excitement and dread. "What if she hates what we have become?" Tor asked often. "Then we show her why we changed," Kresh always replied. They worked together on a presentation, something to show Velmara everything they had learned. Kresh designed a holographic display of a Threxian cultural center, a building that honored their heritage while embracing the future. Valna prepared diplomatic protocols, actual written guidelines for how Threxians could interact with other species. Tor created a performance, a dance that told the story of their species through movement. Minho watched them work. They were not the same cubs who arrived 18 months ago. They were taller now, their scales fully hardened to deep blue. But the real changes were invisible. The way they thought, the way they felt, the way they saw the universe. On the final day, Velmara's ship appeared on the sensors. The cubs stood together in the docking bay, nervous. Minho stood behind them, equally nervous. 18 months of work, 18 months of transformation. Everything depended on the next few hours. The airlock opened. Velmara stepped through. She stopped immediately. Her 4 golden eyes swept over her cubs, and Minho saw something flash across her face. Confusion, shock, something else he could not identify. The cubs approached. They did something Minho had taught them, something no Threxian had ever done before. They bowed, a human gesture of respect. Then they embraced her, a Threxian gesture of family. Velmara stood frozen. Her cubs felt different. They moved different. They smelled different. Not worse, not wrong, just different. "Mother," Kresh said in perfect galactic common, "welcome back." "You speak common?" Velmara asked, surprised. "We speak 7 languages now," Valna added, "including human Korean and English." Velmara looked at Minho. He could not read her expression. "What did you do to my children?" she asked quietly. "I showed them options," Minho replied. "They did the rest themselves." Tor stepped forward. "We prepared something for you. Will you watch?" Velmara nodded slowly. They led her to the main hall, now transformed into a presentation space. The lights dimmed. Kresh's holographic design appeared, rotating slowly. A magnificent building, part Threxian hunting lodge, part human museum, part something entirely new. This is my proposal for a Threxian Cultural Center, Kresh explained. A place where our people can gather, learn, share our history, but also invite others. Show the galaxy who we are, who we can be. Velmara stared at the design. You made this? I learned architecture, Kresh said. Engineering, mathematics. I can still hunt, Mother. I can still fight. But I can also build. Valna went next. She presented her diplomatic protocols. Page after page of carefully considered guidelines. How to approach prey species without frightening them. How to negotiate trade agreements. How to resolve conflicts peacefully. I studied human history, Valna said. I learned about war and peace, about conflict resolution. Humans were warriors once, like us. They learned to choose their battles, to use words before weapons. You want us to be weak? Velmara asked, a dangerous edge in her voice. No, Valna replied firmly. I want us to be strong in new ways. Diplomatic strength, economic strength, cultural strength. We will always have our claws, Mother, but we do not always have to use them. Finally, Tor performed. The small cub danced, moving with liquid grace. The dance told a story, the story of the first Threxians emerging from their world as perfect hunters, the story of isolation, of fear, of loneliness, and then the story of change, of learning, of hope. When Tor finished, there were tears running down their face. I learned about art, Tor said softly, about beauty, about expressing feelings instead of hiding them. I learned that it is okay to cry, to feel, to care. Velmara was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was cold. You have broken them. The cubs stepped back, hurt. You have made them soft, Velmara continued, her voice rising. Weak. They bow like prey. They cry like children. They speak of art and feelings and diplomacy. These are not Threxians, these are... I do not know what these are. Mother, please, Kresh started. No, Velmara roared. I sent you here to learn, to adapt, not to abandon everything we are. We are hunters, predators, apex killers. That is our nature, our pride. She turned to Minho. You destroyed them, made them into something they are not. Minho stood his ground. They are exactly what they chose to become. They are cubs. They do not know what they need. They are adults now, Minho corrected. And they know exactly who they are. Velmara's claws extended. Prove it. Prove they are still Threxian. She attacked. Not Minho, him. She lunged with killing speed, claws aimed at his throat. A mother's rage, a predator's strike. The cubs moved as one. Kresh did not attack his mother. Instead, he positioned himself between her and Minho, blocking her path. His stance was perfect, defensive, but not aggressive. Valna circled to the side, not to strike, but to contain. She was analyzing the situation, looking for a non-violent solution. Tor disappeared, camouflage activating, but Minho knew where the small cub was, right behind Velmara, ready to disable her if needed, non-lethally. Velmara stopped. She stared at her cubs, who had responded to her attack with perfect coordination, perfect control, perfect restraint. You did not attack me, she said slowly. No, Kresh replied. You are our mother. We love you, even when you are angry. You could have hurt me, stopped me. We did stop you, Valna pointed out. But we chose how. We could have used violence. We chose not to. Velmara looked at each of her cubs, really looked at them. You have not forgotten how to hunt, she said quietly. We never could, Tor said, reappearing. It is in our blood, in our bones. But we learned what is worth hunting. And what is that? Velmara asked. A future, Kresh said. A place in the galaxy, respect instead of fear. Velmara's legs gave out. She collapsed to the floor. And then, for the first time in her long life, she wept. Her cubs surrounded her, holding her, comforting her. "I was so afraid," Velmara admitted through her tears. "Afraid you would lose yourselves. Afraid you would become something weak." "We are not weak," Valna said gently. "We are evolved. There is a difference." "Show me," Velmara whispered. "Show me everything." For the next week, the cubs did. They showed her the garden they grew, the art they made, the books they read, the languages they spoke, the friends they made. They introduced her to Captain Jiwoo, who shook Velmara's claw without fear, to the old artist who asked Tor to create a piece for her gallery, to Rennick, who wanted to establish trade with Threxian worlds. Velmara watched it all. Slowly, her fear turned to understanding. Her anger turned to pride. On the final day, she approached Minho. "I misjudged you," she said. "I thought you would train them. You transformed them." "They transformed themselves," Minho replied. "I just showed them the path." "Will you do it again?" Velmara asked. "Will you teach more of our young?" Minho considered. "Only if they choose it. You cannot force evolution. They must want to change." "They will want to," Velmara said, looking at her cubs. "When they see what these three have become." The cubs prepared to leave. They packed their belongings, their art, their plants. They hugged Minho, thanked him, promised to stay in contact. "You gave us the galaxy," Kresh said. "You already had it," Minho replied. "You just needed to see it differently." 5 years passed. Minho's station was now a school. 50 Threxian students studied there, taught by both human and Threxian teachers. The cubs had gone home as ambassadors of change. Kresh had become a famous architect. His buildings stood on a dozen worlds, bridges between cultures both literal and metaphorical. Valna served as the first Threxian ambassador to the Galactic Council. She had negotiated treaties, prevented conflicts, opened trade routes. Threxians were no longer feared. They were respected. Tor's art hung in museums across the galaxy. Beautiful, haunting pieces that showed the transformation of a species, from hunters to builders, from killers to creators. One day, Velmara returned. With her was a single cub, smaller than her others had been. "This is Nira," Velmara said. "My youngest. She wants to learn." Minho looked at the small cub, who stared back with curious golden eyes. "Will you teach her the human way?" Velmara asked. Minho smiled. "I will teach her options. She will choose her own way." "That is all I can ask," Velmara said. As she prepared to leave, she turned back one more time. "You know what you did, do you not?" she asked Minho. "What?" "You saved my species, not by changing what we are, by showing us what we could become." Minho watched Velmara's ship depart. He looked down at Nira, who was already exploring the station with endless curiosity. The cubs had come back unrecognizable, people said. But Minho knew better. They had come back more themselves than ever before. More Threxian, more alive, more complete. They had learned the human way, not to stop being predators, but to hunt bigger prey. Knowledge instead of food. Beauty instead of territory. Meaning instead of survival. They had learned that evolution did not end with perfection. It began there. And so, on a small station at the edge of space, the future of an entire species continued to unfold. One cub at a time. One choice at a time. One transformation at a time. The predators had sent their cubs to a human for training. They came back unrecognizable. And that was exactly the point.